Ah, Nintendo. Oh, how I love you. How I'll buy every one of your games. How I will disagree with everyone in the gaming community. And how I believe everything you do is the right thing. What a load of bull that is. Hello everyone. Today we're diving into one of the biggest shakeups in the gaming industry, Nintendo's recent move to secure a patent around monster summoning and fighting mechanics. Yeah, you heard that right. Nintendo has essentially claimed legal ownership over one of the most recognizable gameplay systems in RPGs and monster collecting games. But what does this actually mean for the future of games, for developers, and even for us as players? And how does this tie into the lawsuit with Pocket Pair, the developers behind Palworld? Stick around, because this is bigger than just Poke-like games. It's about control, creativity, and the ongoing tension between protecting IP and exploiting consumers. So let's start with the basics. Nintendo has reportedly obtained a patent covering monster summoning and fighting mechanics. On the surface, that sounds broad, maybe too broad. These mechanics have been around for decades, not just in Pokemon. We've seen variations in games like Shin Megami Tensei, Dragon Quest Monsters, Ni no Kuni, and Final Fantasy, with a bunch of other countless indie projects. By claiming this system as their own, Nintendo is setting a legal precedent. They're not just protecting Pokemon, they're drawing a line in the sand and trying to prevent future games from integrating these mechanics. Why? Because mechanics, unlike characters or artwork, are the building blocks of game design. When one company monopolizes a mechanic, it closes the doors for innovation across the industry. Pokemon is not just the first game to have come up with this mechanic, but it has certainly become the most mainstream. Let's rewind a bit. Patents in gaming aren't new. Sega once held one, a patent for directional arrow indicators, the kind you see in racing games. Namco had a patent on minigames during loading screens. These didn't outright kill competition, but they certainly slowed the innovation and forced developers to rethink how they designed games, not because of creativity, but because of legal barriers. Now, fast forward, Nintendo's patent could discourage developers from even trying to experiment with monster battling systems. Imagine an indie dev working on a cool idea inspired by Pokemon or Digimon. Instead of building upon their dream game, they might have to shelve it entirely because they can't risk a lawsuit from one of the most powerful companies in gaming. The long-term effect? Fewer creative spins, fewer risks taken, and more homogenization. Ironically, the very thing Nintendo fans have criticized Pokemon series for in the recent years. Now, what exactly is this patent? On screen is what the patent is about. Pause so you can read it real quick, but to summarize it so we can understand, Nintendo legally owns the right to what a Pokemon turn-based battle looks like. Upon entering battle, the summoning mechanic is that you throw a Pokeball out to summon your Pokemon, followed by issuing commands to the Pokemon to deliver attacks to the opponent. This is no bueno. Many games have this sort of mechanic, but it doesn't stop there because how specific they were in this patent, it gets worse. Per Games Fray, the first step to this patent is that there must be a PC, console, or other computing device, and the game is stored on a drive or similar storage medium. Now, every game possible is stored on at least one of these because every platform uses at least one respectively. The second step is you can move a character in a virtual space, which would refer to the player. The third step refers to this ability to summon a sub-character, which refers to the Pokemon. It is outlandish to believe this was passed, and I bet many of you can imagine a mechanic like this in various games. My prime example is Temtem. That game was heavily inspired by Pokemon, but they made their own types, Tems. You could see everyone playing on the same route as you, and you could play with a friend, and that doesn't mean the game was easier, because the whole game was a 2v2 battle. I would hate to see potential games like this getting shafted. But how exactly did this manage to even slip through? IP expert Florian Mueller took to social media to say that Nintendo should have never received a summoned character and let it fight patent, while a video game patent lawyer, Kirk Sigmund, told PC Gamer that these claims were in no way allowable. Even these experts are surprised they successfully landed this patent. I'm willing to bet the office worker dealing with this patent had no clue what the scope of this would do to the gaming industry. Or, anything shady can happen. Wouldn't be surprised if us money-grubbing Americans accepted bribes. This newly acquired patent will most likely be ignored in court with the current Pocket Pair case, but will certainly hold a wrench in the gears for future games. Now let's bring Pocket Pair into the picture. You probably know them as a studio behind Palworld, the so-called Pokemon with Guns game. that blew up earlier this year. If you've been living under a rock, Nintendo and the Pokémon Company have already gone after them legally, citing similarities in creature design and overall presentation. Here's where the patent comes in. Even if Pokepair defends themselves successfully against claims of copying specific Pokemon designs, Nintendo can still weaponize this new patent. They don't even need to win in court. Just the threat of litigation can pressure smaller studios into settlements or worse, abandonment of projects. And this is exactly why patents like this are often used as deterrents. It's less about proving infringement and more about scaring companies into a compliance. Developers know Nintendo has the money and lawyers to drag them through years of court battle, so even if they're in the right, they may fold. The lawsuit with Poképair has made Palworld make some changes into their own game. Palworld has removed the ability to summon pals by throwing pal spheres, changing it to a static summon next to the player, and requires players to have a glider in their inventory to glide rather than directly riding their pals. The patent JP7545191, I'll throw that on the screen, relates to capturing creatures by throwing a spherical item. I can understand this patent a little because it relates to Pokeballs. Now, if you remember the monster fighting game and summoning game Temtem, they worked around this by having their capture device look like a playing card. So Palworld didn't really make much of a change here, so this one I can make sense of. But the patent JP7528390, I'll throw that one on the screen as well, relates to the dynamic system for mounting and riding creatures, including the ability to summon an airborne mount while already in the air for a rapid flying start. This patent makes no sense, because so many games have incorporated this into their system. Palworld has already been making these compromises not because they are guilty, but because they are working on preparing for the official launch of their game come 2026. They are doing their best to both win this lawsuit and further improve game development while making sure the consumer's interest is still in the best interest. Now, let's talk about what this means for us, the players. Nintendo has a long history of being anti-consumer. Let's not sugarcoat it. They aggressively shut down fan projects, even non-commercial ones. They've taken down mods, fan remakes, and even ROM hacks that don't make a dime. They've killed competitive scenes by going after tournament organizers, and they've been notoriously stingy with digital preservation, shutting down old eShops and making it harder to legally access classic titles. There is no way to play these old games unless you're dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on eBay, or playing the games for free on a ROM hack. They egregiously price their games above the rest of the gaming industry. Look right at the Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle that's coming out soon. For games that came out in 2007 and 2010 for the Wii, and with nothing added besides updating how to use the modern controllers, they should not be priced this high, which is being priced at $70. This patent is just another brick in that wall. Instead of encouraging innovation, they're creating legal minefields. Instead of letting competition push the genre forward, they're doubling down on their monopoly. And here's the kicker. Pokémon, despite being one of the highest grossing franchises in history, has often been criticized for stagnation. Fans have been begging for deeper systems, better graphics, and fresher mechanics, but why would Nintendo innovate when they can legally prevent others from doing it for them? A prime example of competition is the release of Marvel Rivals. A lot of players left Overwatch because the game has been pretty much the same over the past decade. There is only so much hype a new character or map can bring to the game over time. But Marvel Rivals, with a very recognizable IP, released a top-notch competitor for Blizzard. Marvel is identifiable to almost everyone because they are owned by Disney, one of the biggest entertainment companies. They also brought their own spin to the game with character team-ups and hero bands in ranked. These small changes are what people were wanting. Overwatch, in response, released their information on their new game mode Stadium, which is a new competitive mode inspired by MOBA games, where players can purchase items and unlock permanent hero-specific abilities to drastically change how their heroes would normally play, basically making every game different in its own way based on the amount of builds one character themselves could have. Yes, they stated that they have worked on this for a few years, but with the release of Marvel Rivals, this definitely was needed and probably pushed out a little quicker because of the amount of players they were losing to competition. So, competition is important. It's what pushes a genre forward. It is why there is innovation. It is why Expedition 33 was so popular, because it innovated the JRPG genre to have Souls-like elements with their combat. These changes are necessary to bring forward new ideas and creativity. At the end of the day, this is about power. Nintendo doesn't want to protect just its IP, it wants to control the entire space of monster battling games. The chilling effect this will have on developers, especially indie teams, can't be overstated. And we as players are left with fewer options, less creativity, and more recycled idea packaged as new. It's the same cycle: protect, monopolize, stagnate. So what do you think? Is Nintendo right to protect what they see as their creation, or is this another case of corporate greed stifling innovation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear how you feel about this one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And if you want to hear how Silksong defied the AAA model, click on the video above. Look, I don't hide that I dislike Nintendo, but I swear every day they give me a reason to dislike them. How I feel about Nintendo is purely based on how they treat the industry, and that I've grown to love. I'm not a fan of their practices, and I believe they think players are idiots. So I don't have much respect for them, and I believe they are a company that will use this newly acquired patent for evil. Their track history kind of supports my feelings on this, but thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.